Hey, what's going on, guys? It's that cubing guy here, and welcome to the first video in my cubing guy critiques series. In this video, we're going to be critiquing Bryce Cube's 3/1965 7x7 PB single. He set this at Cubing at Home 3, and is part of his Road to Sub 3 episode, or his series. I have watched this video a couple times already trying to record. I had a couple issues, so this is now my third time trying to record this video. Let's see if everything goes smoothly. So, just a couple things to start off with. I'm not going to be trying to reconstruct anything, since, there's a lot of stuff happening. If I tried to reconstruct everything, then it would take forever, I think it's just going to be easier if I stop the video when I need to, and talk about what I need to talk about when I need to talk about it. Now, for events like 3x3, 2x2, maybe even 4x4, square one, cube, all those events, I will reconstruct them and do a different kind of video. But for 6x6, 7x7, Megaminx, 5x5, the bigger events, the ones that take longer, I don't think it's going to be quite as worthwhile, but we're going to see what we can do. Alright, so let's get into it. Now, I do have it set to 0.75 speed so I can keep up, but I will probably occasionally be stopping the video. So the first thing that I see is that green bar there, which is a fairly simple setup. You could probably do a couple different things to make the first two bars, and you should definitely, when you're doing 7x7, have the first two bars planned in an inspection. That lets your look ahead kind of work towards the rest of the center rather than having to worry about the first two bars. And especially when you're trying to get sub 3, that's definitely a big part of it, is being able to plan as far into your solve as possible. I'm not quite sure that he was able to plan first two bars in inspection, but it does seem fairly okay. There was a lot of problems with look ahead in that, and I mean, it wasn't a horrible solution, but it could have been better. I think just if you had planned them, the rest of the center probably would have flowed a lot easier. As far as... Okay. So this first center, the last two times I recorded it, I spent about 3 minutes talking about it. I don't want to keep doing that. But, so this first bar could have been solved in 4 moves. But instead it took you 7. And I'm counting U2s as 2 moves, since you execute them as U prime, or U. It took you 7 moves to solve something which could have been solved in 4. And that's just kind of one of the reoccurring themes that come up in this solve. It is that you take a lot of moves to solve something that could be solved in fewer, which can be just roughly translated to your efficiency needs work. But at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about how we can fix that. There's a lot of floundering around, not quite sure what to do, which just kind of tells me that your look ahead is not really on point, and you kind of just solve things as you see them, which is fine when you're slower, but definitely is going to cause some problems once you're faster. Like, being able to see all of the pieces of a center at once and be able to solve that, seeing all the pieces of a line or a bar at one time and being able to solve it is fine, but what do you do once you're in the middle of solving that bar? You can't continue looking at the bar that you're solving, because then you're just going to pause when you need to get to the next bar. which is definitely something that continues to happen in your solves. It seems that once you do find all of the pieces to solve a bar, you don't really have any problems solving it. It's just going from one bar to the next or going from one center to the next. You have a lot of pausing and a lot of uncertainty about what you should be doing. And even in, especially in this last red bar case, you weren't even quite sure of how to solve what you had. So overall, I'd say you need to work on efficiency. Now, these last two centers weren't horrible. One thing I do want to say is once you get to the last commutator or last two commutators, you should be looking ahead towards your first edge. I'm not quite sure if you did that in this solve. I'm just going to make the assumption that you didn't, since it wasn't super smooth, but that is definitely something that you need to work on, is transitions from your, first two centers to last four centers, and then from your last center to first edges. And being able to make those transitions as smooth as possible will definitely help. But from here, you start working on the white and blue center. Not the most efficient solution I've ever seen, but it's not horrible. I definitely think as far as efficiency goes, edges are your stronger suit. But as far as look ahead goes, I think they are where you're lacking. You definitely have a lot of pauses and a lot of uncertainty in what you're doing with the, random unnecessary U's and U2s and U primes and all that, and the slightly less efficient solutions than what you should be doing. But I think that's, like I said, that's kind of a reoccurring theme in your entire solve, is that you're not super efficient. But like I said, I'm gonna kind of focus on how we can fix that later on. So these last few centers or edges are definitely where your inefficiencies kind of show up. You had a lot of kind of backtracking and uncertainty in what you were doing, a lot of wasted moves. I think even at your speed, if you had properly solved the last few edges in a reasonable manner, this solve probably could have been sub 3. Or at the, at worst, sub 310. You wasted a lot of time on those edges before last 4. I'm not really going to say much about 3x3 stage, it's pretty standard. But I will say that OLL execution was very nice, and then your G-perm was pretty decent, resulting in a 319, which is, obviously your PB, so I'm not expecting you to be able to pull out a sub 3 out of your butt, but there are some things that we need to focus on to be able to get to sub 3, which is, as your title suggests, sub 3 is your goal, and I am here to help you. I do have multiple sub 3 singles and a couple of sub 3 means at this point, so I think I am in a pretty good position to let you know what the deal is. So when you are solving, you have a lot of inefficiency. You aren't super confident in what the most efficient solutions are, but what you are confident is the solutions you can execute them quickly. And that's very evident when you run into a case that you don't know, and I can tell you don't know it because you pause and you kind of just do like U and U primes, thinking about what you need to do, which kind of shows that you are thinking rather than just kind of mindlessly solving, which is good. I want you to be able to do that as often as possible. And when I say that, I mean pause and think about what you're trying to solve. And this kind of comes from a newsletter Jaden McNeil put out recently, where he had Aryan Kerjwal as a guest. And one of the things that he said was uh, efficiency is the distinguishing factor. Um, solvers like Felix and Kevin have two very different solving styles and two very different solutions, and they have very different solutions, even though the times might be very similar. Um, what it really boils down to is how much you take from advanced solvers. My recommendation is to watch walkthrough solves and just slowed down solves of faster people like Felix and Kevin. I wouldn't really recommend Max since he has some of the least efficient solving of anybody in the top, 100, 100 in the world. Um, but Felix, Kevin, Ariane, even Sung Hyuk Nam, they have some of the most efficient solving out there, and they are some of the best people to get that kind of information from. So, watching their solves, watching their walkthrough solves, slowing down their normal speed solves, is how you're going to get the great solutions that you need to cut your move count down. And currently, you're kind of making up for your inefficient solutions by turning quicker, which is a way of solving. It's kind of the Max Park style of solving. I wouldn't really recommend going with that since not everybody can turn as fast as Max, meaning not everybody's going to get as fast as Max. So, watching walkthrough solves, learning these efficient solutions to different cases is one aspect. Another aspect is to implement them. And you implement them by doing slow, untimed solves, where when you run into a case that you think you might have a better solution for, you stop. And you take about 20 seconds to think about it and to do it. And that's going to break the habit of reverting to your muscle memory to solve solutions, to solve certain cases in less efficient ways rather than the ways that you should be solving them. So watching the walkthrough solves, doing efficient, slow solves is how you're going to really improve. And then look ahead is going to come just by, in your timed solves, slowing down and looking ahead as much as possible. And by slowing down and looking ahead, you're going to be able to implement these new solutions that you found without kind of feeling rushed or in a situation where you need to turn as fast as possible. By kind of relaxing your turning, you're going to allow yourself to implement the better solutions. And overall, with an event like 7x7, lower move count simply is going to result in lower times. That's just kind of how it is. And that's my biggest recommendation, is working on your efficiency. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Bryce, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Since this is my first episode of doing Cubing Guy critiques, I'm always looking for feedback. If you have anything to say about what I'm doing, don't hesitate to let me know. I'm always open to feedback, and I'm going to implement as much of it as I can. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Cubing Guy Critiques. Hit that like button and subscribe. And if you want to have your solves critiqued, leave an average of 5 video or a mean of 3 or even a single solve like Bryce did here with the hashtag Cubing Guy Critiques in the title or description. That way I can find it and make a video. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, and peace.